morning, everyone, and welcome to not only a new day, not only a new week, but Thanksgiving week here at the Damage Report, where we reflect on the things we're thankful for, like the news, which is good for the country and good for our hearts and souls. Wouldn't you agree, Brett Erlich?
I couldn't agree more. I was listening, I was ready. I wasn't coming up with this awesome top 10 list of things that we'll do for tier 3 members later. I literally cleared my schedule for this today, so I will not have to also be on other meetings during this show, which I definitely pulled kind of a John move and forgot that I had committed to this, and then I had to move things around to accommodate.
I sent you the email last night.
Oh, you did plenty. You did everything right. I did everything wrong. But it will not affect today's show. I am here, I'm focused, I'm really jazzed for your first story because it's pretty much everything to me.
Well, I actually am a little bit surprised to hear that. It's a weird one. I'm mashing up. Nobody, I don't think, is gonna be mashing up the two things that I'm mashing up. I don't think they probably won't care to, but I care, okay? I like the news. I'm glad that out of all of the topics in all of the world that you could talk about for a job, that we chose American politics, Brett. Anyway, but thank you for being here, everybody. To give you a little idea of what's gonna happen this Thanksgiving week, Brett is here today, filling in. Thank you, Brett. Francesca is away for the week, and we won't have a Friday show, so this is the Brett that we get. Tomorrow we'll have Nina Turner. Wednesday we will have Big News Wednesday, and that'll be closing out the week for us. We do have content we'll be releasing to the channel, on those holiday days. But I will be doing my damnedest to not think at all about anything but pie and getting it in me. So anyway, that's gonna be my life.
Pie and what, John?
Did you like that? That's a little early Thanksgiving treat for you, Brad.
It's like your version.
It's already being clipped out on Twitch.
John's version of the Cuomo's "Let's get after it" is getting it in me.
I think I should say that at least 3 or 4 times a show, I think. Anyway,
100%.
But anyway, we do have a lot that we're gonna be talking about on the show today, so don't go anywhere. We've got a lot of fun stuff. We've got some Karens. The last story is just this weird throwback to predictions about our era that I find fascinating. So I want to see if Brett is interested in that too. So nobody go anywhere. But if you do go somewhere, it should be down to the like button. Click that. You can share the stream, let people know that we're live, and we'll be responding to your comments, tweets, super chats, all that as we go. And with that said, Brett, are you ready to talk about some news?
Very much so.
Okay, well then let's jump right into this video.
To a lot of folks in America, you come across as the cares about everybody but me party. And it doesn't have to be that way. You can find ways to stand up for these folks without being David Duke. This month, when the Democrats finally passed their big $1 trillion bill to rebuild our roads and bridges, 6 Democrats voted no because it didn't go far enough to address climate change, which I'm sure is true. What does? But this was free money from the federal government that would actually improve their constituents' lives. I can see a voter saying, you know, squad, I agree with you on climate change. But as long as it is happening, we also need money for getting the water pumped out of the subway. Can we do that before we build the workers' paradise?
So that is Bill Maher from just a few days ago. And after months of the debates, very public debates about the infrastructure bill, his takeaway from it is that the squad didn't care about infrastructure enough, I guess. They wanted something vague that he could mock, this workers' paradise. They didn't care about the flooding of the subway. They didn't care about these sorts of things. And he used that to demonstrate his larger point, which is Democrats are unpopular because they don't get America, okay? He actually attached that video to this tweet saying, why are the Democrats still, who support so many issues that benefit the middle class, still considered out of touch by 62% of Americans? He threw in his hashtag woke is a joke because much of that 8-minute long video is about how the Democrats are too woke. And by that, he means that any anecdotal thing that's happening literally anywhere in the country that the right talks about, the Democratic Party is responsible for. AOC is responsible for whatever apocryphal comment a teacher supposedly made in a small town in Kansas. Now, AOC spent the week talking about the potential threats to the Democrats in the midterms. She's gonna go in a very different direction. So in this block, we're gonna be contrasting these two takes on what the Democrats need to do to succeed. But first, Brett, I wanna give you a chance to jump in.
So I watched all of Bill's speech in that, and he has everything he needs to solve this puzzle.
Yep.
But he just doesn't see it. He, in that same block, his monologue or whatever, he says that Amy Klobuchar was on his program, and he told Amy Klobuchar that she is failing the messaging battle against Republicans, and Amy Klobuchar is so clueless that she then goes in a very I'm very as funny as Garrison Keillor used to be. She says, "Well, you want to be one too? You want to be our messaging czar?"
He took that seriously.
The left, and he took it seriously, but he's right. The left has nobody messaging effectively. What he doesn't understand, his blind spot, is that he has bought into all the counter messaging, or I guess the messaging that's happening on the right. Why? Because they've found a way. He doesn't realize it. He's not smart enough to figure that out. But they've found a way to message to him. When he says the "we care about everyone but you" party, he is talking about himself. He doesn't understand, and he's not really self-aware enough to understand that there's other people other than him out there. And I totally take your point that AOC is not responsible for all the messaging that's happening. But I will say that the Democrats are good at messaging against Democrats.
Yes.
That whole frame, everything you saw Bill Maher mention about subways in New York was taken from one article, not written on Common Dreams or TYT or some crazy thing, some bubbled off thing, but from the New York Times. The article is called "Ocasio-Cortez Isn't Wavering. Are New Yorkers on Her Side?" He is absolutely wrong when he talks about why they voted no. He's wrong.
He has all of the information, as you said, that he needs to have to know why they did that. So he's either insanely ignorant, or more likely, he's just lying because he doesn't support them. To come out of all of this and say the ones who are standing between people who need help and that help are the progressives is an insane thing to say, unless you are an old rich guy with old rich guy positions. And that's what he has. And we're supposed to believe that because he had an HBO show that I guess he's different than Manchin or whatever.
But I agree with him. I agree with him that what you just said doesn't help the goals of the left.
Well, here's what doesn't help the goals of the left or the Democratic Party. Living your life like Bill Maher, where he came from the 80s into the 90s, where the Democrats learned to be terrified of and always responsive to literally anything the right says about them, and to cede whatever territory is necessary. Start bailing out all of your positions because the right might criticize them, and that is how you should live. And whatever is left over at the end, which coincidentally is almost always giving the rich what they want, I guess that's all we can afford. And he says there, you have to learn to stand up for these folks without being David Duke. Look, it is very easy for this incredibly old white man to jettison all of these concerns and pretend that they're not important, to believe that the only identity politics that should be allowed, and that he's saying should be allowed to be the status quo, is white identity grievance politics.
Right,
but anyway, I don't want to get into it. We got to read the AOC stuff. My point is, he still wants the debate to be about wokeness. He's the one that's talking about that. AOC is not talking about that. AOC is talking about infrastructure. He is the one that wants to play on the battleground of the right, while not only accepting their talking points, but spreading them themselves. He has spent years now mocking these sorts of concerns. And then at the end in that video, he says, well, if this is so popular, if it's so common sense, so rational, why do people have negative opinions of it? Dude, you've spent years messaging against it. So anyway, to pretend that he's some sort of objective source for information on this is absurd. Now, to demonstrate my point that she is not doing what he says she's doing, this is what she has had to say about the last few months and about the electoral future that we're looking towards. I think that if we pass the Build Back Better Act, as the House passed it, that we have a shot to go back to our communities and say we delivered. But that's not to say that this process has not been demoralizing for a lot of folks, because there were enormous promises made. And this is where I have sounded the alarm, because what really dampens turnout is when Democrats make promises that they don't keep. Ocasio-Cortez specifically pointed to a bunch of money in the bipartisan bill, including to get lead pipe remediation done. They cut a ton of that. They're continuing to fund the fossil fuel industry. She says that a lot of the promises will not now be made good on because of centrists. And what I would say is, Bill Maher is pointing to a major drop in popularity of Biden from the beginning of the year to now. His argument is that it's the wokeness thing. But the issue is the electorate threw out the Democrats and replaced them with Trump, presumably because the left had been too wokey or whatever. But then they voted in Biden, and now they don't like Biden. Is that because he wasn't woke 9 months ago and now he is woke? Is that the only thing that's happened through 2021? Or is it possible that AOC's analysis, that they came in, they were put into power in the White House and in the Senate, making specific policy promises, and the message that has been fairly clear, if the process might have been muddled throughout this year, is that, I don't know, a bunch of corrupt Democrats stalled, nothing really seems to be getting done. I hear that they keep cutting stuff out. Which is more likely to explain the drop in popularity through 2021? Vague stuff about wokeness, or the possibility that he's not doing the things he said he would do?
Right, and the success of the messaging that Biden is a radical socialist woke psychopath. That's it. The ability of the right-wing messaging sphere to, as you say, to convince Bill Maher that woke culture is responsible for fill in the blank when really nothing's happened. Really nothing's happened. And he said that Biden's approval rating did not succeed in this is the longer Bill Maher thing, despite giving checks to people in the pandemic. But he was more popular back then. That you agree to that.
That's a great point.
Bill Maher, you absolutely said if his approval rating's down since then, it was up back then.
Yeah.
And that's it. And that's 100%. I totally agree with you on this. The left just doesn't have anyone going out there. But what the right has done and what mainstream media has done, and this is something that Bill Maher, I think there should be. You gotta win Bill Maher. What he doesn't understand is that Trump being an a-hole alienated, that like culture war thing, alienated centrist Democrat, Republican independents in suburbs, and they were like, I'm either not supporting Trump or I'm voting for Biden. But you can't deny that a lot of this push toward giving people what they need and want in real America, there's a huge divide between the liberal elites and the people on the left who are in unions and fighting for workers' rights. But they just I don't know, but it's very frustrating. Bill Maher is out there being this guy who thinks that he is the only voice out there speaking for like decency, when he completely forgets the fact that this whole push that he's against motivated people to turn out en masse in Georgia to vote against Trump that hadn't before. So at the end of his argument, he says you got to grow the electorate.
Yeah.
The Democrats did with talk like this.
Well, and look, if your case is going to be that wokeness, these concerns, like he specifically says, like you don't get to call yourself a liberal if you teach kindergartners that they're the oppressors, which is, AOC talks about that constantly, the kindergartners are the oppressors, that they've gone too far in these racial concerns. That they should abandon the racial language, which is, again, is convenient for him to say. Then why exactly did they throw out the Republicans in the White House and the Senate after literally months of pervasive racial justice protests around? Like, if you wanted to make the Republican case that America's gone crazy, the left has gone crazy, okay, well, from their perspective, we did that for months in cities around the country, and they threw out Trump and they threw out the Republicans. They literally handed 2 Senate seats in Georgia to the Democrats following all that woke nonsense. But anyway, I want to get into this next super fast then.
Just the question for Bill Maher is like, what do you want to talk about? What do you want to talk about? Because the answer's got to be policies that help Americans. And that's why I say he has everything he needs in his argument. He thinks it's just roads and bridges. It's not paid family leave, lower prescription drug prices, all that stuff. Yeah. That's all that we want. So let's just, Bill, I'm with you, shake my hand and let's go forward and message.
He wants to talk about cancel culture. That's what he wants to talk about.
That's how they win Bill Maher.
Yeah. Okay, Bill Maher has more to say specifically about AOC. Take a look at this.
James Carville knew how to win, and he blamed the Democratic losses this November 2nd on stupid wokeness. To which AOC fired back that wokeness is a term almost exclusively used by older people these days. So that should tell you all you need to know. What? This is a term folks like you brought out very recently and had been proudly displaying at every march since. Just last year, The Guardian declared woke the word of our era. I guess they didn't get the memo from the Mean Girls Club. We don't use that emoji anymore. Woke, please. We say fetch now. What a great strategy, never missing an opportunity to remind voters how lame and clueless and hopelessly uncool they are, especially since those are the ones who actually vote. But okay, fine. What word would you like us to use for the plainly insane excesses of the left that are not liberalism, but something completely different? Because you can't have that word liberal from us and think it should cover things like canceling Lincoln and teaching third graders their oppressors. That's all your new thing.
Again, that is not their new thing. That's stuff that Breitbart and Ben Shapiro have farmed from some third grade teacher in one town and has tried to make you think that's the whole left. And Bill Maher's like, yeah, no, that is. Because he's not that left. And first of all, they're not claiming that they're liberals. Like seriously, he is stuck in this 90s mentality and believes that whatever positions we had there were perfectly fine. And whatever ignorances I have culturally in terms of religion, in terms of race, I never need to get better. Ignorance is fine. Whatever way you've evolved on, however, first of all, he thinks he's more in tune with what diverse communities around this country believe. He's been for decades a wealthy guy who lives in LA and doesn't talk to anyone who doesn't write for the New York Times or host a show on Fox News. And she's not saying any of the things that he's saying. He honestly can't even keep up with a congresswoman, let alone regular Americans.
I was there in a room with Bill Maher as he was telling, just talking to his hair person. I fulfilled things on Bill Maher's rider to fly to Sundance, where he had specifics about his like private jet and what kind it needed to be, how much weed needed to be on board his jet, which I thought was cool at the time. Like this dude won't fly with other people to Sundance to do his special show in 2004. Like I know that he knows he's the elite. He's the guy who brags about like, I dropped $1 million. I dropped $1 million for Obama. Like he knows who he is and what he is. And the whole point about like James Carville knowing how to win. Here's how James Carville won. Literally by saying, it's the economy, stupid. That's it. And saying, I'm not focused. And at the time, George H.W. Bush was like, I want to make this about character. And then Bill Clinton did that. And then also, we can't deny it, H. Ross Perot showed up and siphoned a ton of conservative votes away from Bush. So don't give me that I know how to win thing. And that the winners on the left have benefited from a lot of like externalities. And then also the last thing I'll say is there are a lot of unforeseen things showing up. And definitely when Biden won, I think it was a mix of what you said, but also COVID. People were mad and frustrated with the economic downturn in COVID. And that's why there's this rhetorical device I use when I'm being nice. And I hate that I have to do it, but there's a way to say it, which is, I'm glad, I think you're wrong, but I'm glad that's what you're wrong about. It's the nicest way I can say it. I'm glad what he's wrong about is that he wants people to message and stop being elitist. because that's common ground, because that's your perception of me and my perception of you. Let's work together and get through it and find a way to message to real human Americans that actually benefits their life.
I would say even the COVID thing gets a little bit difficult because they turned that into a massive culture war thing on the right.
Well, that's all they could do, but it didn't work at the time, and they didn't give up. Well, they knew they couldn't win on economic issues. They're trying to make this, as we'll talk about later, this about inflation.
Yeah, and my
they would if they could. They always used to.
They push tax cuts.
Well, no, I'm just saying by and large, in the 90s, if we're talking about a 90s political mentality, the 90s political takeaways that they enshrined into political thinkers at the time was, you got to play to your strengths. And the perceived strengths of Republicans at the time, all the way through to very recently, is Republicans were better by and large on economic issues, and Democrats were better at cultural issues. And now those tables, if Democrats know what's good for them, will turn and have turned.
I think that people have had multiple cycles now of what it is economically that Republicans do when they get into power. And I think it's a little bit harder for them to try to make that case. And I think that they've stopped trying to make it. What I would say is my lesson integrating Bill Maher and AOC is that the right is always going to pluck up nonsensical culture war things and try to make politics about that. They've been doing it forever. They talk about cancel culture now. Back in Bill Maher's day, when he was only 50 in the 90s, it was political correctness. It was the exact same thing. They will always think that the left is too radical on matters of race and sexuality and those sorts of things. That is not a variable, that is a constant. The question is, will the Democrats just be weaker, less appealing to emotion versions of Republicans, which nobody's gonna vote for, or are they going to deliver something? Delivering does not guarantee that they stay in power, but it seems like the only option they have. And as Brett pointed out, when he was popular, it's when he was promising things and seemingly delivering on at least a little bit of it. That's my takeaway. And again, AOC and the squad are the ones that are trying to make Biden deliver. They're trying to make that happen. Notice how little criticism Bill Maher had. He had one quick aside to Joe Manchin. But Joe Manchin, Kyrsten Sinema seemingly are not a big issue from Bill Maher's point of view. The fact that they are directly stopping Biden from delivering on his promises wasn't worth much of a mention in that 8-minute monologue. In any event, we do have to take a break. When we come back, we're gonna be talking about Kyle Rittenhouse, Tucker Carlson, and all that nonsense after this.
Rower.
Okay, everybody, let's see what's going on. Layu Veneers has been a tier 2 member for 11 months on YouTube, says it's a fresh Brett on Monday. Woo, my faves on Monday. I am lucky. Smoking Shadow Dragon. Brett, can you confirm, is it a fresh Brett today?
Yesterday I did a lot of yard work and I sweated in a way that smelled as though I was getting rid of many toxins because I hadn't moved my body. You ever get that? Where it's mostly like, oh, this smells like rubbing alcohol. This doesn't smell like Stinky Boy. This smells like rubbing, like every.
I think you've been drinking a lot. I think that's what it is.
I haven't been drinking a lot, but I hadn't sweated and I have drunk quite a bit of volume over the last few months.
Okay.
But it was bad. So I think I have a fresh, rejuvenated feel. Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Okay, Sophie Shipper says TikTok docs a bad limerick. So I just got my booster at last. Now the internet's making me ask, do I need to de-vax Epsom salts or X-Lax to blow those bad bots out of my? Nope, not gonna read that last part. But Sophie fandom, thank you. That was actually in there that time, but not reading it. But thank you for the super chat, much appreciated. A 420 Kitty Dragon in Twitch said around mid-December, I plan on subscribing for a month to Dragon Squad on YouTube so I can watch the top 10 list during the damned holiday break. I'm not against that plan. That's a perfectly fine plan. By then, we'll have 60 top 10 lists waiting for you. So we can get you through those breaks. Tina says, war is just fools killing other fools for foolish causes. Tabloid Fox News would never get that. Well, I mean, presumably someone is benefiting from those foolish causes. Maybe Fox is in on that game. Tyler says, I'm tired of people attacking the only progressives willing to fight for more than crumbs. What if you didn't need crumbs because you already had loaves? You'd probably be okay with attacking the squad, I guess. There are a lot of people who don't need those crumbs. And that's the inherent asymmetry in this media game. We are going up against people that have way more resources than we do. Some of them are on the right, some of them are moderate Dems. They universally have virtually unlimited money.
Yeah.
Progressive Canuck says, the right complains about wokeness, but yet they say they are woke when talking about what they think the conspiracies and theories about government taking away rights right now are. Just saying, that's a great point. Again, it's kind of like the cancel culture thing. It only means, it seems as if it's something that could apply to a lot, but it's, of course, it's a little bit more intentional. But yeah, they believe that they've realized the truth of the deep state and the truth of the lizard people and the truth of the Rothschilds and George Soros. It's just that they've awakened to insanity. Shmoopy Dragon says, Bill, tell us you're a rich old white guy who's completely out of touch without telling us. Yeah,
I just want to say, like, I don't think it's terrible to, like, there is a whole category of people like Bill Maher that it wouldn't hurt to get inside your tent. And I think it's possible. They're sitting there between like their pocketbooks and like fighting for everyone in a way that doesn't affect them in District 1. I think if you keep coming back to your old, you're betraying your own core interests, your own core, like don't be ageist. I think you're being ageist when you say
we're
you're
trying
old.
not to be woke by doing the ageist thing. We're trying to appeal.
And then it's disingenuous. And now I know that that's a joke, and I know that that's your thing, but I gotta remind you that is the field of play that you're on.
It is not a disqualifier. It is to point out that it is potentially another obstacle to claiming a position of leadership and representing people. Rawr. Because to finalize that, it isn't that we're trying to get him into the tent. He's in the tent. He's trying to rule the tent. That's what he's trying to do. He's saying, I'm here. It's my way. It's not their way. It's not the young new generation of Democrats. My way from the 90s. Literally, we're gonna pluck political strategists from 92. Their way is the way.
Right, and that way,
I think that's a losing strategy.
I think a winning strategy is to give him a different enemy other than presenting him as the enemy.
Sure. Well, but again, the point of that block was not to persuade Bill Maher. I mean, that's a laudable goal.
No,
but anyway,
I like that we have these discussions because we're smarter than everyone.
Obviously, I think that is coming through loud and clear. Okay, with that, let's jump into something else that we're really smart on. Let's watch this.
Everybody there, what happened? I said I had to do it. I was just attacked. I was dizzy. I was vomiting. I couldn't breathe. This case has nothing to do with race. It never had anything to do with race. It had to do with the right to self-defense.
Right.
I'm not a racist person. I support the BLM movement. I support peacefully demonstrating. And I believe there needs to be change. I believe there's a lot of prosecutorial misconduct, not just in my case, but in other cases. And it's just amazing to see how much a prosecutor can take advantage of somebody.
Okay, so there you saw Kyle Rittenhouse in his little special interview with Tucker Carlson, more of which will be coming tonight, so buckle up for that. The fun thing about this is that Tucker Carlson, who loves to occasionally talk about how dishonest the media is, sometimes he'll even have on former liberals to talk about how dishonest the rest of the media is, was producing all of this embedded with Kyle Rittenhouse throughout the trial, while doing shows talking about how Kyle Rittenhouse was obviously innocent and should be let off, while generating footage that would be produced into something that had a financial beneficial impact on Tucker Carlson because of the relationship he was benefiting from, and never once admitted that that's what he was doing. I cannot think of anything more fundamentally dishonest. Like he's an opinion guy. He could have just said, tonight we're gonna be talking about Kyle Rittenhouse. Oh, by the way, I'm producing a documentary with Kyle Rittenhouse. He chose not to do that. And Kyle Rittenhouse, by the way, chose to do all of this with Tucker Carlson, with all of what Tucker Carlson is. And so you can take from that whatever you want about Tucker Carlson and his ethics, or about Rittenhouse and his claims to be in no way a racist person. He is certainly choosing an interesting media figure to allow to sort of generate the first post-trial impressions he's gonna make on the country.
Yeah, I mean, I see that you have a lot prepared for this, and I agree with the framing and everything. And just know in the back of your mind that we will get to a point in this conversation where we discuss how even Kyle's lawyer is trying to tell him, buddy, stay away from these people. You need to go back. And I will say that people like Tucker Carlson, very much disingenuous, always angling for some kind of supremacy of white people and also supremacy of himself in this new world new world order he's trying to create, where there are fascist populists who try to snow leftist populists into and try to trick them into getting into this unholy alliance that will result in the loss of freedoms for everybody who isn't a certain type of way. Let's put it that way. And so have that in the back of your mind. And the only person talking sense that I have heard, even tangentially related to this entire Rittenhouse trial, against all odds, is Kyle Rittenhouse's lawyer, who's saying that everyone trying to grift off him, especially Tucker, is a psychopath and he needs to stay away from them. And that makes the Republicans, the right-wing media, completely complicit in ruining a family, the Rittenhouse family, and turning him into like this weird Scott Baio, Ricky Schroeder, future toxic, radioactive child star who will absolutely have severe issues and whose life will be ruined after he blows through all the money, because obviously he has no guidance at home giving him any kind of moral or decency compass.
And we incorporate that when we say that obviously it would be better for literally everyone if he just had not gone to Kenosha. But that is not a position that everyone can agree on. As Steven Crowder was talking about, like, don't you dare as a right winger imply that he shouldn't have been there or that there was anything wrong about this. They not only love the application of the law, they love the situation. They love the outcome. And again, they're celebrating him, but he is just a tool. He's a means to an end. If this wrecks his life, they're not gonna shed any tears for that. It's not actually about Kyle Rittenhouse. But you've been bringing up the lawyer thing. So if we could jump ahead, Brandon, to that last video of the Rittenhouse lawyer talking about what he thinks about this case.
Word that you guys had a film crew embedded with you from Fox News, from Tucker Carlson. I want to know why that decision was made.
I did not approve of that. I've threw them out of the room several times. And I'm not suggesting that Fox or some other network. I don't think a film crew is appropriate for something like this.
That seems like the most reasonable thing, Brett.
Madison Cawthorn, Paul Gosar, Matt Gaetz, Steven Crowder, all Candace Owens, they're all angling, in addition, Tucker Carlson, are all angling to have Rittenhouse involved. Here is what that same lawyer told Business Insider, I guess Insider now. Quote, they're raising money on it, and you have all these Republican congressmen saying, come work for me. They want to trade on his celebrity, and I think it's disgusting. Donald Trump Jr. retweeted some kind of proposal from a gun rights organization to send Kyle Rittenhouse a AR-15 as a reward for killing those people and using it in Kenosha. And Richards told Insider about Donald Trump, quote, he's an idiot. I don't have to expand on that because it speaks for itself.
Yeah, 100%. Look, this is all grift. The media apparatus is a grift. The Tucker Carlson stuff is a grift. And again, it isn't even about Rittenhouse. And Rittenhouse's stuff about it having absolutely nothing to do with race and he supports BLM or whatever is like the most like shallow version of those comments. The idea that it has nothing to do with that. Like, come on, that's ridiculous. And it doesn't matter that he killed white people. He went to a racial justice protest. I mean, like, do we need to point this out? I understand that there are like lizard brain people in the chat that aren't going to get that or whatever, but yeah, I mean, and he's going on Tucker Carlson. Like, come on.
People say, and I will say explicitly, we have the ocular proof of Kyle Rittenhouse throwing up a white power sign. I don't know what else I need to do when he's hanging out with Proud Boys and flipping the okay at everybody. That is a white power sign. So anyone, Candace Owens is saying that he needs to spend the rest of his life till he's 96 years old suing people for defamation for calling him a white supremacist. Well, I hate to tell you, that went out the window that legal argument when Kyle Rittenhouse threw up a white power sign. It's over.
That was only like 3 years into occasional national conversations about that being a white power sign.
And he's,
100%.
I mean, he's not like a thumbs up or this. He throws it in a very obvious way.
Yeah. And by the way, your willingness to go to a racial justice protest and kill white people who are demonstrating on behalf of that is not the argument against you being a white supremacist that some in the chat might think that it is. I get it. He is perfectly willing to be violent towards white people. The video of him beating that girl from earlier, I believe she was a white girl, so he'll beat white girls, he'll shoot white men. I get that. That does not mean that he's awesome in terms of race. Anyway, let's move on to the other aspect of this. Tucker Carlson not only has done his recent project with Kyle Rittenhouse, but also produced that Patriot Purge thing, which is basically just taking the whole shtick of Alex Jones and glossing it up a bit and putting it on Fox News. And that has had some consequences for Fox News. Not for Tucker Carlson, to be clear, he'll only be paid more, but a few of their longtime commentators have resigned in protest over that. So you have, let's see, Steve Hayes, Jonah Goldberg put out an open letter saying, Fox News still does real reporting, and there are still responsible conservatives providing valuable opinion and analysis. But the voices of the responsible are being drowned out by the irresponsible. A case in point, Patriot Purge, a 3-part series hosted by Tucker Carlson. Jonah Goldberg said about that, it's basically saying that the Biden regime is coming after half the country, and this is the war on terror 2.0. It traffics in all manner of innuendo and conspiracy theories that I think legitimately could lead to violence. That for me and for Steve was the last straw. They don't really delineate the previous straws, but understand that along the way, Jonah Goldberg wrote this book, Liberal Fascism, with the little happy face with the Nazi mustache. And so, he tolerated a lot along the way. He said and did a lot along the way. I guess everybody has their limit though. But anyway, they said that they stayed with Fox because they believe that post-Trump, Fox could recover some of its independence and right the ship. But Patriot Purge was a sign that people have made peace with this direction of things. And there's no plan, at least, that anyone made me aware of for a course correction, which I would say for all of the other insane views that Jonah Goldberg has had seems fairly accurate about Fox.
I mean, yeah, I don't know what else to say other than you're right, and that is the correct interpretation of events. I watched some of the Tucker Carlson original about what's his name, about Kyle Rittenhouse. And there's a shot. It starts with a video of Kyle sleeping, which is really creepy. Like that good job QAnon people. You're behind a whole network that's filming minors sleeping. Anyways, he wakes up, he looks at a cross on his wall. There's like a specific shot of a cross on a wall. Who knows if this is his house or wherever his hotel room that he's sleeping in. But I don't think there's a cross on a wall. And then when it says not guilty, like Lenny Riefenstahl cuts to a montage of like all the moments when he was thinking about, all of the freaking the terrible things that happened to him as the triumph of the will. I mean, it's triumph of the Kyle is what they're going for.
Exactly. Yeah, so we get an idea of what these Tucker Carlson productions are gonna be like, glorifying the vigilante violence, which, again, at least he is being consistent. Tucker Carlson spent months and months trying to get people to go and do what Kyle Rittenhouse did, trying to convince them that they were about to be pulled out of their beds by sometimes explicitly a black mob coming for them. Then somebody did it, and to be fair, he's sticking with one of those individuals. On this other thing, the Patriot Purge, it's just madness that a mainstream media outlet put together something that called the January 6th just a false. It might be a false flag. I mean, we're just asking questions. It might be a false flag. I mean, sure, there's dozens and dozens and dozens of people that have been arrested that are in jail right now that have been crazy Trump fans that went there. They're on video doing it. But maybe the whole thing was just totally invented. And maybe Biden is going to hunt down and kill conservatives, maybe. Like this is That would have been like a big project for Alex Jones a couple of years ago. And now it just appears on Fox. And because it's on Fox, it's considered normal. And that is how Fox has devolved. They actually fired Glenn Beck back in the day for some of the stuff that he said. They eventually fired Bill O'Reilly. They're worse than they were in the days of Bill O'Reilly and Glenn Beck. They're more conspiratorial, more insane, more openly basing their politics around white identity politics. And he, of course, is like the nexus of that at Fox. Okay, now, I think you found this to be a little bit funny. So let's jump ahead to a quick little bit on this. Glenn Youngkin won his election to become the next Republican governor of Virginia just a little bit ago, actually. And that was a huge cause for celebration on the right. And now the celebration appears to be over and the backlash has begun against Glenn Youngkin. Some of them are already turning on him. Over the past week, this is the Daily Beast reporting, over the past week, outrage has bubbled over amongst right-wingers and Trump world allies alike who are under the impression Glenn Youngkin has insufficient MAGA loyalty, despite Trump claiming total credit for getting him elected, citing his hiring of an LGBTQ staffer and his refusal to block COVID-related local mandates. Just if you want to get an idea of the current state of the right, simply hiring someone who's LGBTQ is going to cause them to question you and your loyalty. So he has a new press assistant, Joshua Marin Mora, and a writer for the Claremont Institute talking about this said, so Youngkin chose a guy with pronouns in his bio to do his comms, who also served on the Georgetown Latinx Leadership Forum and supports virtually everything Youngkin's voters voted against. I don't know what evidence he has of the supporting everything they voted against. That is at least, it's vague, but in theory, it's a substantive critique of this individual. The other critiques are he has something in his Twitter bio and he was on a Latinx leadership forum. Remember, this is the party that's like, no, we're gonna get Latino voters to vote for us. No, if you organize, if you're even involved with those voters, you don't deserve a job, seemingly, from their point of view.
These are the moments where I just go, your words. Your words. So for all the Bill Maher's out there who are like, stop calling these voters X, Y, and Z, it's like, this guy is saying the reason, and this is a Bill Maher thing. This is not, I would say, evaluate it for yourself whether this is cancel culture, but I'm just pointing out that the reason this guy hates the comms director or whatever this official is within the Youngkin administration, the reason he hates him is the reasons he listed. And those listed reasons are it seems like he's part of the LGBTQ community, and that's what this dude thinks his voting block is all about. So Bill Maher, you tell me, and I honestly think, and I know I'm using Bill Maher, but he's representative of folks that have glommed onto cancel culture because people don't laugh at their jokes, and just go you tell me what you want to do in that situation. That's an earnest question. What do we do? What do we say? And then I'll come back at you with aren't you trying to cancel these people who are just communicating their feelings about the LGBTQ community? And then also what do you suggest we do about it?
What if putting a phrase in your Twitter bio should presumably result in you losing a political job, how can you describe that from the point of view of the person doing the firing or the not hiring as anything other than, I guess it was politically incorrect? It was incorrect to do that politically, but they don't like political correctness and all of that. But they literally will stop you from being hired if you put he in your Twitter bio.
But I mean, that's what Bill Maher will roll his eyes at. He's like, you're making it so hard for us. It's like, well, buddy, what do you want? What's your approach? Because as in Bill Maher, he took someone else's approach. He didn't come up with his own. He allowed BS framing to dictate the conversation. And in this, I just don't know what to do. You're gonna glom onto someone using their pronouns because I got a feeling that's not what they have a problem with.
Yeah.
It's not that they listed their pronouns or whatever. Which is just a way to be nice to people.
It's race
and call them by their name.
Exactly. No, and look, he could, he could come to grips with the fact that political correctness and cancel culture are not what the narrative wants you to believe they are. They in fact are terms that could be applied to how virtually some of every type of person responds to things they don't like. But Bill Maher is like most political comedians since Carlin, like terrified of not being able to say something, and so he can't grapple with that. He accepted the narrative on political correctness in the 90s. He accepts it wholly on cancel culture now. And so just give in. Don't try to fight back. Don't point out that the right does the exact thing they supposedly criticize. No, spend all of your time criticizing AOC for something a different person she's never met has said.
Yeah.
Anyway, they're also mad because Youngkin isn't strong enough against mask mandates or vaccine mandates or whatever. They're calling him, it's another rhino alert. Like, it was like a week ago. He just got elected, you madman. I don't know what he wanted to like suck the vaccine, like chelation for everybody in Virginia to remove the vaccine in a week.
Yeah.
I don't understand it. I don't know. I apologize. It's really getting to me. I'm verklempt. Anyway, okay. So I have to take a break. Okay. When we come back though, at the weirdest time possible, Trump allies are trying to convince him not to run. We're gonna take a look at that. And Trump wears a costume, so that's gonna be fun. We have that for you after this. Woof, woof. That's not the sound the track can make.
What does the fox say then?
Every time we go to break, Brett pulls on the string of this thing and just that's the animal noise you hear. Anyway, okay, what's going on in the audience? Patrick Depew has been a tier 2 member for 11 months. Says, with all the depressing news lately, and since today is November 22nd, I'm thinking about watching JFK later today. You know, to cheer myself up. Hashtag dark humor. Jeez, thanks for being with us. Yoda Speed has been a tier 1 member for 4 months. Says squattish. I know. I'm not sure if that's the squad, the Dragon Squad, but whichever. Thank you. Amanda Coffey has became a tier 2 member, getting access to our top 10 list. We're gonna be doing the definitive top 10 best Thanksgiving foods. That's our Thanksgiving themed one for this year. We're gonna see how much overlap we have. Also wanted to let you know, by the way, that coming up after our program, Wosny Lombre is gonna be joining Rashad Ritchie on Indisputable, assuming that doc is updated, I don't know. But I think it's Wosny Lombre is gonna be joining Rashad Ritchie.
No, it's not. It's not. Okay. It's Jackson White.
Okay, awesome, okay. Well, great show too, and I'm assuming that is not who will be debating then. But just watch and find out. That's the best way.
Today on Indisputable, it is Jackson White and then founder of Politiscope, and then Adam Gillette, who is the president of Accuracy in Media, and they will be debating critical race theory in the bullpen. You know, as a concept being utilized by nefarious schmuckos. Well,
and I guess Bill Maher would be happy. I don't know. I'm not sure. Anyway, Noelia Bernini says, you know who is not part of the Rittenhouse case? The individual who gave the kid an AK-47. I don't. Luck Dragon says, when I see Rittenhouse talk about being pro BLM, I see the same coaching when he cried scripted and badly acted crocodile tears in court. Look, it's also possible there are plenty of people in this country that think that they're like filled with empathy, that think that they understand these different things. They're not one of the people. Like nobody thinks, man, I am super racist. Lots of people believe that maybe they're just a little bit more realistic about certain things or whatever.
No one wants to hear that they're super racist. These are all just facts. So I agree with what you said. No one wants to hear that they're super racist. There's got to be some other way to do it. My other question is like, is the right going to turn? Maybe you said this, but is the right going to turn against Kyle Rittenhouse for saying he supports BLM? He's a BLM activist.
I think they're going to push past it. I think they're going to find a way. Like when Trump told people to get vaccinated a couple times. Anyway, over Twitch, the only Dragon Allegra hit 16 months. Says John is the best. I had a TDR marathon to catch up while meal prepping yesterday. I love that. I wish that I could do that. That seems like such a time savings. I need to start. Mark Bugs hit 12 months. Says Dragon Daddy, hiya there. I'm a big boy now. Let's go try. That for some reason makes me real uncomfortable. Anyway, thank you. Shag and Miller at 6 months says shout out to Brett for the Bezos Bucks promo and Dragon Daddy for birthing the squad. Thank you.
Yes, everybody, remember to re-up your Prime subscription. If you're on Twitch and anywhere watching this show, you can, and you're an Amazon Prime user, you get to use some of those Bezos bucks. You get 1 Prime subscription every month. Remember to re-up it, and it's free for you, and we get the revenue. Exclamation point Prime in the chat.
Awesome, and thank you to those gifting memberships over on Twitch, including Blue Tech, the Belgian Dragon, who gifted 2. Drew in Georgia, who gifted 1. Mother Effin' Woman Dragon, who gifted 1 as well. Metal Kitty Mom, who gifted 5. Thank you for that. By the way, finally, Kyle says, Triumph of the Kyle isn't all bad if you don't specify which Kyle. Just saying, not thinking of anyone in particular, of course. You're biased, okay? You're fake news. Anyway, we have more news coming up for you, though, after this. Radical Trans Girl, welcome to Tier 1 membership on YouTube. Thank you for being with us during this show. Thank you everybody who's watching. If you haven't already hit the like button, please do that. That would be nice as we launch into our next story. Let's keep it real. Donald Trump is almost certainly going to run for president in 2024. It's also a couple of years away. I guess then that makes this kind of the last period where if you're on the right but don't want Trump to run, you might be able to get through to him. I think it's kind of a waste of time, but some are doing their best, according to new reporting from The Atlantic. There's this former campaign advisor for Trump who's anonymously saying that they're going to Trump and trying to convince him, using the example of Adlai Stevenson, who lost twice in a row back in the 1950s, that it's just too risky. You already lost once. If you lose twice, you're gonna look like a loser. And that advisor is not the only person who is trying to put some pressure on him. Newt Gingrich, former House Speaker and a Trump ally, said, I don't think he wants to risk losing twice. Once, you can argue about the outcome. Twice, it becomes a repudiation, which is so limited in his thinking, he can claim it was stolen again. Anyway, John Bolton, who definitely has Trump's ear now, said, I think he knows deep inside, although he will never admit it, he did lose in 2020 and very much fears losing in 2024 because if he hates anything in the world, he hates being called a loser. And so, Brett, I think that's, like, some of them don't like him and don't want him to run. But for those who would want him to win but don't think that he could, isn't this a weird time? I mean, Biden's approval rating has gone down. The Democrats are kind of in chaos. They've taken over the world with let's call Brandon and critical race theory. Why would they be scared of him winning now of all times? They've done all their voter suppression and stuff.
Like, I love let's call Brandon. I think
did I say let's call Brandon?
You said let's call Brandon, but I like it. Brandon, let's go.
Hey. Whatever it is, mine is better. Honestly, I'm gonna make a t-shirt. Let's call Brandon.
Sounds like you're having fun.
Is he MAGA? I don't know. Anyway, isn't this a weird time though to be scared?
It's not scared, is my argument. They're not scared.
What do you think it is?
Are you talking from Trump's perspective or from like what's going through Newt Gingrich?
The Trump advisors, like Bolton, I don't think cares about Trump. I'm saying those who would want him as president, but think, oh God, you'll lose again. You don't think any of them
don't want him as president. Otherwise, they would convince him to run for president.
Okay.
They don't. So, from their perspective, they don't want Trump involved in politics. They want him out. He is a wildly successful politician who was able to completely galvanize the base of the party. If they can win without him, because he is that wild card, they would rather do that. Yeah. And then when we pull quotes, we're pulling from Newt Gingrich, who is like an idiot, like the smartest idiot in the world. Newt Gingrich, who is probably jealous because he wanted to be that kind of a person. John Bolton, who is aggrieved by Trump. All these folks just want him to get out. Now, from Trump's perspective, I think these are good arguments to communicate to Trump because you don't want to be a loser. So Trump will walk that line between thinking that, because Trump's going to make his own decision based on polling and potential for winning. Yeah. Because he definitely, the through line for him, his desire is to still stay in front of cameras that are pointed at him.
Sure, maybe there are easier ways.
And losing, and it's possible in Trump's mind, if he can deny that he lost an election publicly for many, many years and go to bed at night fine, happy that he he's never lost an election in his mind. I mean, that's the pathological side of it. If you can get through to him that he lost and he knows that he lost and all that, and it's just a denial, then maybe not. But I just think that, if he thinks he's winning as long as people are talking about him and he's in the discussion. And if he can get around the I am not president by saying he won an election that did not result in him being president, like he did it once, who's to stop him from doing that? And the only thing that they're appealing to, which is, bro, you are going to be a loser, and even you are not pathological enough to deny that.
Yeah, I wouldn't underestimate him in terms of how pathological he is. Yeah. By the way, someone in the chat was like, "Who are you gonna call? Joe Brandon?"
That's funny.
Let's make that a shirt. Anyway, you're talking about Trump being a loser. He has had some wins. He's been honored, actually, in a way that I've never been honored. So Kukuwan, also known as World Taekwondo Headquarters, home of the World Taekwondo Academy, has just awarded former US President Donald Trump a 9th Dan black belt, the highest level attainable by professional martial artists. And it is a high honor. You can see in Trump's face that he's very happy about it. That's his fighting stance. And yeah, I mean, I can't, I don't even think he needs to take the test. I think you just assume that he has the skills. He has those moves. I think that he's earned it, Brett. What do you think?
So cool. That's how you fight.
That's fair.
You can tell
that's
the guy
also how he dances, to be fair.
So stupid.
By the way,
ridiculous.
He said, I'm gonna wear this outfit to Congress if I'm elected to the White House again. And so I was telling the production meeting, that's a combination of two things. One, it's like, I'm gonna be in martial arts attire. I'm like a tough guy. I'm gonna be like ready to fight. The other is, continuing to make a mockery of our way of life, our society, our civilization, our government, all of that. To that threat, though, I say, do it. Come on, I want you to please do the State of the Union.
Just those moments where you like, this photo should go down in history along with every photo of John Kerry doing anything. Like him crawling in the Dr. No outfit out of a nuclear reactor and windsurfing. And then Dukakis in the tank where he looks like a rivet.
He also simultaneously looks like a Madame Tussauds wax figure there. And I hope that the eventual one he gets for Madame Tussauds is exactly that. I have no edits, don't change a thing. Just, I want to see you in front of Speaker Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez wearing that exact outfit. Anyway, thank you everyone for tuning in to the first hour of the Damage Report. Don't worry, don't go anywhere. We got more. If you're on our linear platforms, we appreciate you watching. Thank you as always. But if you're on the members app, YouTube or Twitch, we have more to talk about, including the people who are most out of touch in the state of the American economy. We've got some Karens. We also have this amazing throwback that you're definitely not gonna wanna miss. So Brett and I are gonna take just a couple-minute break. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back before you know it. We'll have more fun, exciting news for you. Welcome back, one and all. We've got more stories for you, but first we have comments for you. Tashina King says, Destination Charity launches on Saturday, November 27th. We have an affiliate organization that helps charitable organizations to create an income. That's a great idea. Take a look. Franklin Sharpslicer says, Fox hosts are like diapers and should be changed for the same reason, but that's not the reason to ranked or rile, it's the freedom of Kyle. Funny. Portions Directed says, John, I say this with love. Every time you disparage old, rich white people, you sound mean and intolerant. It's alienating, it doesn't help our cause. Try, honey. I get what you're saying. I felt like I was being attacked. I should not have said it in that word. Here's the thing. I do think that we could use a little bit more consciousness that the positions of people with fundamentally different economic situations than ours are not a random mystery. And the patterns we can see matter and have influence. I think that is, the most worthy part of all that. But right. I do think yeah. Anyway.
Even Ben Shapiro says we should invest in solving those problems, right? Even psychopath Ben Shapiro says we should invest in those problems.
Yeah, and I
let's
trust
do
him
it
because he's not old.
Together, right? And I agree. John's allowed a moment of weakness.
I'm not great.
And stupidity.
I don't know what to tell you.
When
did I ever say I was great?
Monster. John's allowed to be a monster. John's allowed to be as evil as we all know he was when he said that. And I
stop. Okay. So
white knighted in there to save America.
Okay, I'm gonna try to balance out how evil I am with providing some news. Let's jump into this.
Cold open it, bros.
Let's do it.
Gasoline was $1.87. That was a year ago. And now it's, I guess, just hit $7.50 in California, the rest to follow. And I predicted this.
He predicted that the gas would be $7.50. Now, there is only one reaction. Let's just get over, this is the reaction. I mean, it's one banana, Michael. What could it cost? $10? Like, it is just, you don't have any idea. Brett. Now, I know this is the happiest you've ever been, so let's go.
I mean, it is so rewarding to witness this because Donald Trump professes himself to be this like man of the people, but he has always already been in everyone's mind an ivory tower dwelling troll.
Yep.
And to sit there with a straight face, I just need to call out people who are gonna believe this for a second because he said it. Because there will be people out there who are watching that video and live in places where, gas prices are $2.50, $3, right? And they think that because they're $4.50, $4.75 in California, that they must be $7 because it's expensive. You guys need to understand that Trump is an elitist who hasn't ever cared about you, won't ever cared about you. He'll pay you lip service, but he's never going to make any policies that benefit you whatsoever because he never understood you and he never will.
Yeah. Two indisputable facts. That and that there is always money in the banana stand. That's what you need to know, okay? That's it. Anyway, yeah, no, he totally is. And by the way, it's wrong. Oh, by the way, like the comparison to Lucille Bluth, like with the banana, there aren't signs on the road with the current market value of bananas. Like you go anywhere, it tells you what the gas price is. So I think Lucille Bluth is the victim in this comparison. But anyway, what he said is not technically 100% wrong. It's just wrong. The only gas station in the remote Central Coast community of Gorda is selling regular unleaded for $7.59 a gallon. So yes, it is true. There was one gas station in the entire country that had it for $7.59. Now, you might think, well, obviously that's not representative, but still it's technically true. You just have to go with whatever the highest gas price is. Well, are you sure about that? Because back in 2019, July, there was a gas station in Salinas, California selling for $11.75, and that was under Trump. So I guess the average gas price under Trump was higher. And by the way, the other end of what he said, that it was $181 just last year, is technically true. Bring up this chart. Okay, so this is the overall, and obviously it's an average across the entire country, across a month. If you go, you might see a dip where it is about 180. That is in February of 2020. Do you know what February 2020 was? Before the pandemic, and it's been going up ever since. And it was only that price very briefly. You can see that regularly the average was quite a bit higher. And no, it's not 750. And so like, is it just lying, Brett? Does he not know? Is he ignorant and lying?
Yeah, he wants to feel good and he wants to talk trash about Biden, and it's incumbent upon everyone to point out when he's lying. Like, this is what's so crazy. George H.W. Bush in the 90s, when he was running against Clinton, once said he was amazed by a grocery scanner.
Yeah.
Right. And that turned into a similar moment where afterwards everybody was like, oh my God, this guy is so out of touch. He doesn't know how to buy groceries. That moment when he was amazed by what turned out to be like a grocery scanner that was like slightly different than a normal grocery scanner turned into a major scandal. This probably won't. And it should, because this reveals that he is completely out of touch with what faces most Americans, and every reason why is telling, because it's either that he never drives himself, or he's in New York City all the time, and he never has to access the things that real people have to access. He's your bubble president, and he sucks.
Yeah, 100%. He has not been in a grocery store since the 70s, maybe. And by the way, I'm not just talking about that he doesn't know the price of things. He said, remember, this is a couple of years ago, if you want to go out and buy groceries, you need identification.
Yeah.
What are you talking about, you madman? He has no idea what life is like outside of his golden tower. But he's not the only one. Market Watch eventually had to delete a tweet that said average Americans are paying as much as $100 to $200 for a single concert ticket, $90 for a bottle of wine, and $5 a gallon for gas. That was not true, and they did take it down. $100 to $200 for a single concert ticket. I don't know. I don't go to concerts. That doesn't seem that unreasonable. It's not $5 a gallon for gas on average. $90 for a bottle of wine.
So great.
What are you talking about, you psychos?
Yeah, average.
It's just clickbait. Average.
Average.
I mean, half of us buy 120 minimum. Look, to get the 90 stuff, you have to go down to the bottom shelf, I guess. The 120 is at eye level. What are you talking about?
Average Americans stationed in Antarctica. $90 for a bottle of wine is so much money for a bottle of wine.
Yeah, it's like Market Watch polled Chrissy Teigen's household, and on average, it's about $90 a bottle.
My favorite thing is you turning on Chrissy Teigen. Oh, that's my favorite thing. It's my favorite thing.
Chrissy Teigen. I think she's clever on Twitter. I don't understand why she followed me and then unfollowed me. I want to know what I said about Bernie that made her unfollow me. But anyway,
so happy.
And I'm sure that it does. No, look, the thing is, we're surrounded by people in politics and in media that have no idea what it's like to even live. And there was some great commentary after this. Shemak tweeted, average Americans are spending up to $1 billion for flights on their own rockets. With a little picture of Jeff Bezos there. We have the tweet perhaps. Anyway, but here's the thing. They will make the story about inflation because it is beneficial to them to do so. It is being used to perhaps stall the infrastructure bill. Meanwhile, there's so many new billionaires that private jets are in short supply. It's tough to get a mansion these days. Super yachts are rare. Bring me a boat tomorrow inside the pandemic yacht boom. But meanwhile, you can barely afford your $90 bottle of wine.
And that's it.
That's all fake.
And that's what John was saying earlier. I've identified these patterns, and maybe we should look at maybe remedying them, because there's a difference between being successful and affluent and then being able to have so many people demanding private jets that it becomes a problem, right? That it becomes a problem because our tax code is off from where it was back when everyone who says make America great again thought America was great. During that time period that MAGA people are talking about, the tax code was a lot fairer. The marginal tax rate was way higher. And we're trying to maybe get back to that because it took place in that time between when there were robber barons then and there are robber barons now. That's all we're saying.
Seems fair. Okay, with that, let's mix things up. Everyone, get ready. We're going to be showing you some footage and a couple of stories that's a little bit rough, so consider yourself warned. And with that, let's jump into this video. So that footage comes from Little Elm, Texas, at the Little Elm High School, where a student, you can see there, is pepper sprayed, and then immediately after being pepper sprayed was shocked with a taser. I wish we could say that this footage really stands out, that we never see anything like this. No, it's just that this is the video for Little Elm this week. We'll see what happens in other schools. What you saw in the film, though, took place during a protest over an allegation of a sexual assault involving a student that the district claims is total inaccurate information, total fake news. Students say that they were peaceful, they were just chanting, they weren't looking to get injured. 4 kids were arrested for allegedly assaulting police officers, and the school has said that all of the chaos is due to the juveniles. The cops didn't do anything to escalate it. None of the tactics they used were in any way wrong. They did a bang up job, but it's these lying kids who believe fake news that caused all of the problems. That's all the information I have. I don't know the truth behind the allegations or anything like that, but that is what is coming out of that footage. Pepper spraying, a tasing, the kids were the ones who did everything wrong.
Yeah, and if you watch the video, you can see that like it seems like everybody's walking, and then one of the police officers just shoves the kid who ends up getting pepper sprayed. And so that's one aspect. And here's something about pepper sprayed. Hate to break it to you, but if you're in a hallway and you pepper spray one student, you're pepper spraying all the students. And that kid reacts. Everybody was walking nicely, it seemed. And then there was a shove by a police officer, and that escalated the situation. I watched another video over the weekend of there's a man in Canada standing completely handcuffed, and the police officer feels slighted in some type of way and just point blank sprays this guy's eyes with pepper spray multiple times.
Have you ever been pepper sprayed?
No.
Okay, I thought maybe I could see you doing it for like a dare video or something. Yeah, I imagine it's terrible. And also, as soon as that happens in that footage, presumably the kid is now unable to see.
Right.
So he's got his hands up, he's moving. They tase him. He's probably blind at that point, at least temporarily. He's already in agony. And we know that, these less lethal weapons can still be risky if you have one of a number of conditions that are fairly common in America. To do that so needlessly against kids, and it's just been normalized. Like we see this video, there was Fox 4 News covered it, and it was on the Daily Dot. It's not national news that a kid was pepper sprayed and tased. It's not a shooting at the school would have barely been national news, perhaps, unless it was novel in some other way. It's just a weird position we've ended up in as a country.
Yep. Terrible.
Now, something else that's become normalized is just the casual demonization and violence against workers. Let's jump into this video.
Can I do my job, please? I'm trying to get the leaves out of the road. Oh my God! Get out of my face! You're so dumb! Get out of my face! It's like maybe if you weren't in the way, I could do this, right? Get away from my car! The car's for my daughter! Who is that polite? Get out of my... I want to go, bitch! I want to go! Get away!
That video, which has gone viral on TikTok, shows a trailer park maintenance worker being assaulted while trying to do their job, which is to blow leaves. Obviously, there had been, the incident began before the footage, but the woman who eventually would attack the trailer park maintenance worker was blocking the worker from doing their job. Apparently, worried about their car, not worried enough to move the car, but worried enough to want to block her from blowing leaves around the car. And then eventually, as seems to be more common, it's anecdotal. We can't make any, larger scale statistical, pronouncements about that. Ends up just attacking the worker, despite the fact that a camera was being held up in her face before the attack, which is an interesting move.
So this is it's intense. I don't know, and I've kind of just been researching whether there is I know that there's a photosensitivity aspect of epilepsy, and I'm seeing indications there might be noise sensitivity with epilepsy. But I feel like there's better ways to communicate that information than just shoving people.
Well, yeah, I mean, look, I don't know. Let's say that there were. That does not presumably mean that for the rest of time they don't blow leaves there.
Yeah,
that doesn't seem like a potential solution.
I don't know. I don't know what it is with that, but it's just it's tough. Like there has been this. I want to know more about the situation between these two parties, but everyone hates leaf blowers. And they are way better at making leaves go places than rakes and whatnot. I know Mark Maron has a whole bit about like in LA when you get there, there's always a leaf blower. Like that's all that there ever is, and when they're happening and they're horrible. And but still, I think that
they're very effective.
Look, it's just like you can't go up to a maintenance worker and shove them because they're leaf blowing. And I hate to it's gonna go away very shortly. Like the leaf blowing is she was walking. They're very efficient, so she's gonna walk.
She's gonna keep moving. Yes, I hope that we're just seeing more of this because it feels like the constant confrontations with workers over masks, over vaccine mandates. The flight attendants just being constantly bothered, like restaurant servers, people who work at supermarkets. We had a different video of somebody briefly getting in the face of someone blowing leaves before it turned around and the guy ran away. Like we're even having overlap in the type of incidents. I don't know that means that more of it is happening. It could just be that we're seeing more of it. In any event, that woman ended up getting evicted. Now, the trailer park says that she had other prior issues. It wasn't just this, but the woman did eventually get evicted. So bear in mind that was the consequence of this. No words of consequences against the maintenance worker, which seems very reasonable to me. Again, in any of these sorts of stories, it is possible that there are things that took place before or after the video. We don't know about that. We try to approach these in a reasonable fashion.
Yeah, so I'm seeing musicogenic seizures as a reflex epilepsy triggered by certain types of music or even specific frequencies or pitch, which the person's brain has a low threshold or tolerance. So if it's a mom who's looking around, this is from Epilepsy Ontario. If it's a mom who's like trying to defend her kid, I get it, but you can't assault people. And I feel like you can have a better conversation than one where you're shouting and shoving.
Yeah, it's easier to move than to assault someone who's doing their job. Okay, very briefly, let's jump into this last story. Over the course of this weekend, I came across this tweet that I found fascinating. Mike had tweeted almost 25 years ago, Wired ran a story predicting a quarter century of progress, what they call the long boom, unless certain things occurred to prohibit that progress. They had 10 progress busters they warned us against. Now, I didn't believe this when I first saw it, so I went and I found the original article. The Long Boom, A History of the Future, 1980 to 2020. So here's how we're gonna get more prosperity, more freedom, a better environment. Well, unless these 10 scenario spoilers come up. We're just gonna briefly show you. This is a shot from the article. You, of course, can't read that. And I just wanna run through these and get very brief reactions from you, Brett, about these. Are you impressed by this? So number one is, tensions between China and the US escalate in a new Cold War bordering on a hot one. There's been a lot of tensions. Politicians are playing it up more recently. New technologies turn out to be a bust. Marissa, I can't see past you. They simply don't bring the expected productivity increases or the big economic boosts. I think that new technology has been great. It has mainly allowed us to share inaccurate information online that stokes racial grievances much more efficiently than we could have back in the 90s. Number three, Russia devolves into a kleptocracy run by a mafia or retreats into quasi-communist nationalism that threatens Europe. Well, that would never happen. Number four, Europe's integration process grinds to a halt. Eastern and Western Europe can't finesse a reunification, and even the European Union process breaks down. Number five, major ecological crisis causes a global climate change that, among other things, disrupts the food supply, causing big price increases everywhere and sporadic famines. I mean, not so far in the United States, but that certainly has happened internationally. Major rise in crime and terrorism forces the world to pull back in fear. People who constantly feel they can be blown up or ripped off are not in the mood to reach out and open up. Number seven, the cumulative escalation in pollution causes a dramatic increase in cancer, which overwhelms the ill-prepared health system. I don't know that that's particularly causing a rise in cancer. There certainly is a lot of cancer and a lot of pollution, but. Number eight, energy prices go through the roof. Convulsions in the Middle East disrupt the oil supply and alternative energy sources fail to materialize. Though I did hear that gas is $7.50 in California, so maybe that is happening. Now we do have alternative energy, we're just not really using it. Number nine, this is a crazy one. An uncontrollable plague, a modern day influenza epidemic or its equivalent takes off like wildfire, killing upward of 200 million people. Now it did not kill 200 million people, let's be clear about that. There was a modern plague. Number 10, a social and cultural backlash stops progress dead in its tracks. Human beings need to choose to move forward. They just may not. Maybe they'll be told by guys on HBO that we should just surrender to the cultural backlash. Anyway, Brett, I found that to be fascinating. I understand there's a bit of cold reading to this. Those are the only things that could really stop progress, but some of those seemed highly specific.
I think a lot of them are right, and it means like it felt like writing a paper in college where it's just like what are the here are the top 10 things, and then you get to write your paper about 3 of them, and I think do you have a top 3?
I mean, I think obviously the plague. I think the social and cultural backlash, we're currently experiencing that right now, and the climate change. I mean, there were others as well, clearly, but those 3 are definitely going to be a major impediment to change in the future, and we are experiencing them. Yeah,
they did a really good job of identifying these things.
They did. And that was quite a while ago. Anyway, we'll see if any of the others come true in the next few years. Can't wait to find out. Anyway, Brett, thank you for joining us on a Monday, a Brett-tastic Monday. I could get used to that. We're gonna be recording a top 10 list for our tier 2 and tier 3 members in the near future. So thank you in advance for that as well.
Thank you for having me. I had a great time.
Always. Those of you at home, thank you for watching. We'll have that top 10 list for you soon. Indisputable is coming up. Jackson White is gonna be joining Rashad Ritchie, so you're not gonna wanna miss that. But until next time, stay safe out there, stay sane out there. We'll see you soon.